Okay, good morning. We're up to the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Amid Beis, right? And pretty Hashoichet Beis Roishin Ke'echad. You're shechting two Roishin Ke'echad. Again, if we have our Sichas Chulin available, it would make things a little easier just to get literally a picture of what's going on over here. So you see the picture on Pei Gimel. You're shechting Shtei Roishin Ke'echad. So Shchitasa Keshera. Now we said this is the lashon of b'di'evet, right? This is the lashon of b'di'evet, because by speaking about kotchen, because by chulin you could do this afil lechatchila. Okay, shnayim oichsin b'sakin. Two people are holding onto a sakin v'shaychtin. Afil echel l'mayla v'echel l'mata shkitasa k'sheira. Now here if you might recall yesterday, we had two pshatim. Right? We had two pshatim, either two people with two knives shefting on two separate parts, or we had a lumberjack, right? We had a lumberjack, two people with the same knife. Okay, those are the two ways to learn, and both ways we said it would be kosher. Haya shoichet, haya hitis es haroish b'vasachas. Now notice this doesn't say the word shoichet; it says hitis es haroish b'vasachas, meaning you're using a chopping motion. Okay, Pei Gimel, the picture 38 bays. So that's the classic drasa, guys, right? That's the classic drasa. Drasa is you're chopping down. That's one of the psulim. So hittis is roish v'vasachas psula. Hayushoichet v'hittis as a roish v'vasachas. Now you're doing a shchita, and with the shchita, the head comes off. Okay, machloikis, if you see on Pei Dalid, Amid Pei Dalid, according to Pashup Shat, according to the Ramban, that's in Mashma like Rashi, I think, that you did the shchita. That's why you see the motion, the arrow. You're doing the shchita motion, and you cut the simonim, and you cut through the mafrakta, and the whole head came off. According to the other Rishonim, the Rashba and the Ran on the left, you only cut the simonim. You might recall, fellas, by Oilis Sa'if, we said that as long as if the two simonim are severed, it's called hittis. It's called disconnect, even though it's still connected by the or. You might recall that Rashi we did. Anyway, so Hayashach this is a Rosh B'Vasachas. Im Yesh B'Sakin Maleit Savar Kshera. Now you're only doing one motion. It's not Moilech Umevi, guys. You're only going one directional. If you have in the tzavar, you have a, you have the knife is the neck equal to the neck of the width of the neck of the animal. So we're going to see in the Gemara, you need one, two. You need the extent of the knife to be, let's say it's 12 inches. Let's say it's a foot. So you would need 2 feet. You need another 12 inches to be able to go in one motion. Whatever you need double the width of the animal's neck. Again, usually shchita is moilech umevi. Here you're just going in one motion. If you do it in one motion, in order to be a good shchita, you need double the amount of the neck of the animal. That's what the Mishnah is telling us.
It's not a treifa if the heads fall off?
No, you already did the shchita. You shechted the simonim. The shchita, the treifa would be if it was if the neck was broken before you did the shchita.
Oh, okay.
No, if you go down, you look at that picture. It's a funny looking picture, right? At the two top, there's two rings at the top, Nasin. Those you see the black? Those two things are done by the simonim. Then you get to the white. That's the mafrakta. So you did the shchita by the time you get to that. That cross section he's showing you. It's very interesting, right? He shows you every. He shows you.
Lace, quick question on that picture. The arrow shows it's coming into the person. It could go the other way also.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Just curious that it could.
Because this is unusual. The lashon of shachat is mashach. My Rosh Hashiva's word is coming to fruition. I told you, the Rosh Hashiva learns for shachat is mashach. Zavach is malach umevi. And over here, and you can see from the Gemara like that also. But who are then? It won't make a difference. So im yesh b'sakin malei savik sheira. V'hit is base roshim v'asachas. Okay, the same thing even with two. Now you're doing two heads now. And yesh b'sak and malit savar achas kshera. You need one extra, it'd be kasha. B'medva murim. When is all this said? Bisman shehoilich v'lei hevi, I hevi v'lei hoilich. In answer to your question, Hesh. Bisman shehoilich v'lei hevi, I hevi v'lei hoilich. That's when it would be a good shchita. Aval im hoilich v'hevi, afilu kol shehu, afilu bi zemel kshera. Even if you have any zemel, if you have a small scalpel, and you're going like this, like back and forth, then it would be kasha. So the Ozalachas was that one motion over here, but if you have a small scalpel and you're going back and forth, even if it's shorter than the neck, as long as it's going to be able to sever the simanim, it would be kasha. In other words, you could even do shchita with a razor blade, fellas. In other words, you would be able to do shchita with a razor blade. If you go like this with the razor blade and go back and forth, you'll be able to do shchita.
Even though it's all the way through.
Again, you have an animal. Think about its neck being this way. You take a razor blade and you're going back and forth on the neck, right? Yeah, you can't push it down. Again, you have to go malach umevi. Hadrasha is not what is not permitted. But you see that now the Gemara goes ahead. Minani mili. Really, the Gemara is going ahead and asking, how do you know you need to be mashach and not doras? How do you know you have to be mashach and not dorash? How do you know that mashach is enough? Now, I had a kasha over here. We said that the 5 simanim are Allah Moshe Sinai. The 5 psulas, shehiyah, hagrama, right? Shehiyah, hagrama, chaloda, trasa, and ikor. Allah Moshe Sinai. So what's the Gemara asking? Basically, Gemara is asking, minani mili, that trasa is no good. That's what you're asking, guys. When you say you need mashach, the pulling motion, how do you know what chopping motion is not good? Ask Eliezer Stern and anyone of us who could have asked it. Okay, so here's the teretz, because I cheated a little bit because I knew something. So here's the teretz. If you go back to, guys, Chav Zayin Amid Aleph, go back to Chav Zayin Amid Aleph. You'll see it's very geschmack. So the Gemara was looking for a source for shchita, and we concluded it's Allah Moshe Sinai. Why? Because shehiyah drosa chaloda agrama v'ikam minolan. How do you know? Ela gamra. We have a Messiah on those 5. If you look at Rashi, fellas, Dibra Maskol, Shavia Gistra. It's probably right a little above the middle of the page. You got it? Rashi, Dilma Shavia Gistra, Shlayachta Kolam Mafrakta. Don't cut the spinal column into 2. The achi mashma chiteu haitzi es damai. Just cleanse out its blood. V'sulai ulidach lishna hechshachi lasay dahainu hasimanim v'sulai lishnachrina the lishadle gistera shle yidrois. That don't make it a gistera. You shouldn't go and do hadrasa. Don't afagav. Look at here's what we need. Afagav the halachas shchita halacha mashmi sinai heim. So what do you need a pasuk for? To tell me you don't make it into a gistera? If you tell me it's hadrasa, so why do you need a pasuk? Yesh mehem shenichvu. There are those that what? They do, you do have a source. You're going drasa. You do have a source for drasa. The mafkinu lekamon, we're going to learn later on, mivishachat in, v'shachat elaloshin mashach. V'chi gamiri elchasa shaira. So in other words, this Rashi is telling us, based upon this Gemara, the Allah Moshe Sinai said on all 5, but we have a source for 1. We have a source for drasha. It's important idea to know. We have a source for drasha, and that's what the Gemara is saying now. What's the source for that? What hadrasha is no good, guys. That's okay. What's the source that drasha is no good, and that's what we're doing right now. Minani mili back by us. Shmuel damakra chetz shachar l'shaynam mirma diber chetz shachar l'shaynam is a lashon of mashach. You went ahead. You're pulling the bow. And it's going, guys, it's going like, look, when a barrel now it doesn't go down, it goes like this, right? So you lashon of mashach, it's going like this. Tanabeb Yishmal v'shachat, vein shachat elam umashach. It's my Rabbi's word. Vein shachat elam mashach, it's mashach. V'cheinu oimer, zahov shachot, drawn out drawn out gold. Lashon is drawn out gold. I guess V'oimer Chetz Shachal Shainu. He brings the second pasuk. Lashon Memer Diber. My V'oimer. Why do you have to bring the second pasuk? We have a raya from Zahav. Why do you have to bring the second pasuk from an arrow? V'chitema Zav Shachat Nitva Kechut. You know what shachat means? Drawn out. It means you make it very thin, like, and that to put it on a needle. Like they had these little spindles that they would go ahead and wrap the gold around it. So therefore, Tashma have a pasuk Chet Shachal L'Shainam Riba L'Shainam, which is lashon of what of Chetz is lashon of drawn. So you see that shchita has to be drawn and not daras and not pushed down. So we do have a source for the record, even though they're called five halacha mishmi sinai as quoted in Chav Zayin and early in the Masechta. We do have a source for one. We do have a source for drasha. Now, you might recall we were discussing Esav killing with an arrow, right? Esav killing with an arrow, and I asked an Amaratzistic question that L'choyidi Moluchu Mevi, and the answer is if the arrowhead, fellas, is the amount of the neck of the bird plus, you only need one direction. So therefore, you will be able to shechtva with one fell swoop, so to say. And here's the Gemara to substantiate this. Rava Havi Bodakle Gira, the Rabbi Yaina Bar Tachlifa. Rava was checking the smoothness of the arrow of Rav Gira Bar Yaina, the Shochatba, Oifa, Bahade de Parach. And he would shech the bird as the bird flew. Now we can visualize this, but since we all own a Sichas Chulin, it's a mitzvah to see the picture. We have to see the picture. And here we go. Page Pei Hey. Good. Guys, notice the size of the arrowhead that he drew. Fellas, notice the size of the arrowhead that he drew, right? Bimuduyak. It's a very lot, right? You see it? So he's now, okay, so now the blood is dripping, which is a problem, okay? So we're gonna have
wouldn't that be an issue of koach kocho and koach gavra? Like, he's not touching the animal physically with an instrument.
What do you think? What do you think?
I guess it's okay. I mean, looking at the picture, I mean, the Gemara says it's okay.
How is this arrow coming through the ear?
With a bow and arrow. I mean, he's using his force. His force.
It's his force. So is that koach gavra?
Okay. I thought you need physical contact. That's what I'm really saying.
We had early in the Masechta, if you throw a knife and it goes in shechs and gets the wall.
It's good. Yeah.
You see it's koach, right? It's koach.
Yeah. Okay.
We had another case by a person being tied up by a river, and you pulled up the thing, and right away the person got killed. You're chayav misa. I didn't touch the person. You see, that's koiche. Koiche is a secondary force. Okay. Anyway, so he says the Gemara Vidilma Avet Chalada. Maybe if it goes. Hey Vav, guys, next page. That would not be a good shechita, right? Because it's going to go. It's going to be hidden between the simanim, right? That would not be a good. It'd be hidden between the simanim. That would not be good. Okay. So the says the Gemara Chazinon Gidafe the Miframe. You see that what? You look at the neck and you see that what? That the feathers are you could see from the feathers that were cut. Feather of a boy kisui. Yini kisi adam. It's a knife. You're going to say he covered it. You got to make it a sandwich. You have to have off on the bottom, off on top. It says offer nemar ela be'offer. Malamed shashoichet tzarich sheyitain offer lemata ve'offer lemaila. Says no, the masman leila offer the kula piska. The whole place where he shechted, they prepared it. They dug it up, so therefore it was considered it was nituach, and therefore you wouldn't have a problem with kisi adam. You go to get the dam and you cover it up. Okay, Bez Hashem, we'll see more about this when we get to Daf later on Daf Pei Gimel and kisi adam. Okay, he said V'hoyeshoichet v'hitis, right? The Mishnah said, Hoyeshoichet, he was shechting, v'hitis, the Rosh, and the Rosh fell off. Okay? And we said that how, we said if it's Molei Tzavar, it's going to be good. Molei Tzavar v'chutz Tzavar, Amr Abzeira, Molei Tzavar v'chutz Tzavar. It has to be the width of the neck of the animal and chutz the neck of the animal. Now, how much is chutz? Does it mean just a little bit, or does it mean a lot of it? In other words, take a look at page Pei Zion. Do you mean the top picture? So you would need, that's double. You see double of the blade, guys? The width of the head plus, or the bottom picture. The width, you just need a little more outside, right? So what's chutz mean? Chutz mean exact and a little more, or it means double? That's the kasha. Let's see it inside. Iboilu, malei tzavar v'chutz tzavar kimalei tzavar. The havilei trade tzavari, you'd have double the neck size. So idilma, malei tzavar v'chutz tzavar mashu, even a little bit. Tashma, hayeshoichet v'hitish shnei roishim v'vasachas. Imesh t'sakim malei tzavar echad kasha. My lab tzavar echad. What do you mean? My malei tzavar echad. Ilema malei tzavar echad v'suloi. Hashler v'hema achas bin malei tzavar v'chutz. The tzava b'shtei behema sagi. When you go to one behema, you need a little more. You're going to tell me by two animals it's exactly to go ahead, and you just need one, the exact amount. That doesn't make any sense, right? So we see from shechting two, it means you need the amount of what? You need two plus. So it means like picture number one, guys. I mean, the Malit Sava, you need that size of Malit Sava, that amount. If you take a look on page Peches, you're going to tell me shechting two animals. Malit Sava Echad Besuloi, you just need Malit Sava Echad. How in the world are you going to shecht two animals and pick on the top picture 47b, correct? Ella must be what? The picture 48b, 48 b's. And so you're being pushed to the Shiloh. Good, very good. Okay, so we said if you use a scalpel, a small thing, that if you do malachim, maybe that's going to work. That you need to double the size. Where you only going one directional. We're speaking about an example that does not have kanayim, page sadik. They would make these. You see, this is a scalpel. The bottom end is very, very sharp, guys. The bottom end is very, very sharp, and it has on the top like two horns. It was made for noi. That was made for noi. So if you had one that had kanayim, that would not be acceptable for shchita, because you may go ahead and do picture 59b. Right? You may go ahead and you'll make it a treifa. You'll go ahead and rip away the veshet. Or be ma'aka something, okay? So back in the Gemara. Machta mai. What's the name of a machta? A needle. Can you shech with a needle? In other words, you're telling me there's no... Guys, look at me. Please. Once you're telling me that if you go moluch umevi, it has nothing to do with the width of the animal's neck. So now, and you tell me an azemel, which is smaller than the neck, is good. Let's go to the most minimal size. If you have a needle that's sharp, can you use that? Maybe can you use that for shchita? So we're going to a minute. We're going to. So machta mai, amalei machta mivza baza. A machta, guys, page Sadik Aleph, first picture. A machta, it doesn't go ahead, and it pierces. It doesn't cut. It pierces. It doesn't cut. Think about a sharp needle, fellas. You're only using the point. A point doesn't cut. It's mivzabaza. It pierces. Good. Says the Gemara. Amalei machta mivasa mai. Machta de ushbachi mai. What about the leather workers machta? It seems the leather worker machtas had sharp sides. They have a picture over here again. It doesn't. Yeah, picture the middle picture inside the Aleph. It's got some width to it, fellas. So it doesn't come to a point, and it has sharp sides. Can you check with that? Amalei tanina, afilu kol shehu. Right? If the lashon of the Mishnah was what? Avalim hoylech maybe afilu kol shehu, afilu zemen. It says afilu. Look back at the Mishnah, the last line of the Mishnah, guys. Avalim hoylech maybe afilu kol shehu, afilu bi zemel ksheira. So when it says afilu kol shehu, that lechayra, therefore the machta dushbachni would be okay. So that's what you want to say. Kol shehu, even a little bit. Says the Gemara. No, you have no raya. My kol shehu, my love, machta ushkapi, loy ezemel. Says more ezemel behedik tani la. Fellas, I feel a kol shu, I feel a beizemel. Mashma is two separate things. You feel a kol shu, I feel a ezemel. Because no, that is one thing. Says Gemara prusha kama farish. My kol shu, when it says kol shu, it means an ezemel. It means a scalpel, but not a needle of an ushbachi. Hachanami mistabra disal kedaitach machta de ushbachi hashta machta de ushbachi sharia ezemel mi boy. Guys, look back in the Mishnah. If you're going to go back and forth, afilu kol shehu, even the needle of a ushpachi of a leather worker would be good, and afilu be zemel. Now, if the first case it will be good, you don't have to tell me zemel. Zemel is a larger surface, so it must be that what that perushi kamafarish. It must be that it's one thing. Kol shu, what is the kol shehu? That's an ezemel. But einochinami, the machta dushbachi would not be good. Says the Gemara, you have no raya. I can tell you that it means kol shehu means machta dushbachi. And why do you have to tell me ezemel? Because you might say even all ezemel, even one with karnayim. Kamash malon has to be without karnayim. So there's a chiddush there. Says the Gemara. Ezemel boile. Istrichle. Salkdat chaminan ligzar izemel shein lekarnayim. At izemel sheish lekarnayim, I might think with geyser that since there's an izemel that's no good, that's the one that has horns, it's no good. I would say with geyser or to what a izemel that doesn't have horns. Kamash malon, we don't make the gzeira. So you have no raya, you have no proof to the halacha of a machta dushbachi, whether it could be used for a shchita or not. But I was thinking a razor blade would be good, guys. Razor blade is not a point. It's not a point. It's a surface, and it's usually very, very smooth, right? So now we know pshat and Gillette is the best a man can get. And go ahead. Says the Mishnah, Nafla sachin v'shachta. The sachin fell and it shechted. You picture 62b. Guy's walking along, he trips. Nebuch, that poor duck. Talk about being in the wrong place in the wrong time. That's it, right? He's gone. We also like to seek a Chulin for some humor along the way, right? Let's face it. Okay, so nafla sakin v'shachta. Afa pisha shachta kidarka psula. Why is it puzzle? Because what Heshi brought up. Shneimar bizavach ta, and you should shecht. V'achlalta ba v'achla masha tezeveach ata eichel. What you shecht, you can eat. For shchita, you don't need kavana, fellas, but you have to have what? It has to come from it. It has to have that you did something. If it fell by itself, you didn't do anything. As we'll see, if it fell by itself, you didn't do anything, right? So this won't be a good shchita. Time with the nafla. The reason it's no good is because there was no koyach gavra in the first place. Hahi pila. If there was koyach gavra, if he threw it, but he didn't know that what there was a duck there, a chicken there. Kshera, it'll be kosher. If he afagav loy mechavin, even what if he's not mechavin? Afagav what the even though what he's not mechavin. If your knife falls out of your hand, fellas, forget about kavana. You didn't want the action at all. But what happens if I want the action? And something happens out of the action that I didn't expect, such as a sheet, it still will be good. Because that is koyach gavra heshi. Because I wanted that action. I was unaware of the shchita. You don't need shchita b'kavana. You just need to have what? The koyach gavra. Pilik she'er, v'yafagav le'mechavin. Man tana d'loi bin kavana l'shchita. Who's the tana who says you don't need kavana for shchita? Amarava Reb Nassan he. It's Reb Nassan. The Tanya. Oishi Aziri min Chavaria. Zorek Sakin l'noyatsa b'kaisel. You might remember this, fellas, right? You take the knife and you're throwing it against the wall. Why are you throwing it against the wall? You're playing darts. You're having a hatchet. You're doing an Ed Ames hatchet, right? You're going ahead and you're throwing it against the wall. And along the way, what does it do? It shechts, yes? And it goes shech kedarka. Reb Nassan machshir. Reb Nassan says it's kasha. The chachamim paislin. So guys, be aware. There's a shita that says you do need kavana. The chachamim paslan it, correct, fellas? This is going to come into play in the Amid base. The shita, the chachamim pasel, the chachamim pasling. Reb Nassan says it's good, and the chachamim paslan. Hu tani love amala. He Rabbi said it, and he said it, and he said Allah is Reb Nassan, even though Yachid Rabbim, Allah Reb Nassan. For the Gemara, why was it necessary for Rabbi to tell us this? For Amar Rava Chodazim, no, Rabbi said it once before. That nan, how much before, guys? The opening Daf and Amasechta. But Chulin sheshachtu, v'acheirim moim naisai, and all of them at Shech and other people see shchitas and kshera. V'amina and mantana loy boy kavana the shchita. So the cherish sheit of a cotton shechting, and people are seeing it. There's certainly no kavana over there. Yet it's good. We want to make sure that what? That it's on the up and up. V'amarava Reb Nassan he. It's Reb Nassan. So why is it necessary to go tell us the diak and the Mishnah over here, like Reb Nassan? Our Mishnah, the first Mishnah in our Masechta is like Reb Nassan. Says the Gemara Tzricha. Di Ashmina Chasam by Cheresh Shaitim Mekaten Mishum Dekam Achavim L'Shem Chaticha Ba'olam, because you Machavim for the Chaticha. Abu Hacha over here, where he threw the knife. Mishum Dekasim Koyach Ben Das. Abu Hacha L'Loi Kamachavin Emaloi. Over here, where he wasn't Machavin not. Fellas, the Cheresh Shaitim Mekaten were Machavin. So therefore, I'd say that's good. Mashenkin, where he threw it, there was no kavanah for shchita at all. I would say no good, and therefore it's necessary to tell me over here it is good. If you tell me over here it's good, mishum dekasim mikoyach ben das, because the bottom line is the guy who threw it is a ben das. Avol hasam in our Mishnah loy kasim mikoyach ben das, because the ben cheresh shaytechan aim aloi. I'd say not. So tzricha, there's a chiddush in both places. Over here that it's a ben das. Over there there was a. The action was even shlei b'kavona, but the action was done. Kamash Malon, it's okay. Even though what over there you don't have a kavona l'shchita. Now the Gemara is going to digress about kavona for something, and we're going to not complete the daf. We'll be left with hanging with a little exactly what the mitzvahs of the case is. We know a woman who is a nida. She's asked to her husband. She's also capable of mitama oichel mashka or the v'kelim. She's an avatoma. Let's say itma nida shenen nasa v'tavla. An oinus happened and she was toivel. It was past this man. She's able to be toivel now, but she didn't. An oinus happened and she happened to go ahead and be immersed in memsa. Amrav Yehuda Amarav to hoyre lebesa. She's tahar to her house. Vasur lechel betruma, meaning she's mutter to the tashmish to live with her husband. That aspect of nida is removed, but she's still tamei regarding truma. That if she would touch truma, she would be mitama to truma. Got it? So we're splitting hairs, guys. According to Rav, she is a partial nida and not. Regarding living with her husband, she's muta. Regarding, now obviously the question is, how do you split hairs? Rav Yochanan Amar, afle beisalei tahira. Even to the house, she's not tahar. Even to the house, she's not tahar. Amalei Rav or Rav Nachman. The Rav who says she's tahar to the house, and she's asa to truma. She's mitama truma. Dama tahir lebeis of asur lachol b'truma. She's asa to eat truma. I keep on saying mitama truma. It says asa lechol b'truma. Guys, I'm gonna go ahead and change. I didn't say be mitama truma. Forget mitama. She can't eat truma. Okay, she can't eat truma. She can't eat truma. In other words, she's still tame vis-a-vis truma. I was learning tame to be metame truma. No, it's of course that it's more than that. She's tame if she eat truma, she be chayim misa b'dei shemayim. Now, guys, a person whose boiler nida is chayiv karis. A person that eats truma is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. First of all, what's the difference, and what's worse? So let's see Rashi. Lizakek lebaila. Tamei she'achal truma b'misa b'dei shemayim be'elu heinan esrafim. The chorus chama mebisa, and chama is more chama. The yom of nichrasim, his days are cut. The zarei nichras, and his children are cut off. Kidich siv abirim yiyu. So misa b'dei shemayim is to the particular individual. It doesn't affect his children. A chi of karis fellas is more chomer because it affects him and his children. So now, guys, we have a problem. According to Rav, living with your wife, she's muta, chi of karis. Eating truma is a chi of misa b'dei shemayim. So l'chayra, if you're permitted to live with your wife and it's a karis, this is more chomer, you should be able to eat truma, which is what? Kal. As I read the Gemara. Amalei Rav Rav Nachman. The Rav Dama Tahira lebeis of Asul Echol b'Truma oven karis chutra isa misav miboy. If the oven of karis that she could live with her husband is muta, the oven of misav shemayim eating truma for sure. Amalei by lechulin who lechulin labai kavana. Chiddush nifla. Regarding this din, a husband is no kedusha to the husband. That says she could live with her husband is like chulin. My saying came truma, which has kedusha, that you remain asa, right? So therefore, we know that for in chulin, and this is the sugya, this is what we're gonna is chulin. You don't need kavana. So guys, she was toivel ba'onis. She had no kavana whatsoever to be tahar, but she ended up being tahar. For chulin, her husband is muta. For truma, which has kedusha, she's not. So what do we see? Le'inyan chulin, you do not need kavana. And that's what the sugya is going to be now. Le'inyan chulin, you don't need kavana, and that's the sugya we're going to discuss now. So uminat taimra, how do you know for chulin you don't need kavana? Ditnan. Gal shed nitlish. You have this big wave coming with tsunami. Uboya boim sa. And in that wave is 40 sa. V'nafal ala adam. And it falls on a person. Now that's shalai b'kavanam, v'ala kalim, and it falls on kalim to hirim. So he's tar and the kalim are tar. The kalim didn't need 40 mikvah. Tar. My love adam dumya the kalim. When you mention other the kalim, they must be synonymous. Ma kalim v'loy nechavna, just like the kalim don't have kavana to be metar. Af adam nami loy b'ay kavana. So l'chayra, what do you see? You see that from if a wave falls on a person, even though the person did not want it to fall on him because it's comparable to a kli, which has no kavanah, nonetheless he's tahar. So mamela, if a woman falls in a mikvah and she's a nida, she's going to be tahar. Says the Gemara, you have no raya. Memai dilma biyoshef umitzape askinon. We're dealing what biyoshef, the person sitting and waiting for the wave to come. So he's mechaven. He's mechaven that when it's going to go ahead and be disattached. He's thinking, when is it going to go ahead and be disattached? Hagal. So therefore, it's with kavana. Amid veis. What are you bringing kalim in? What do you bring kalim in? The kalim dumya the adam ma adam the beinin kavana of kalim nami to come mechaven lul adam. So to what kalim you need kavana that a person's mechaven to be metarit. The chitema b'yoshu mitzape mais. What's he sitting for? Right? What's what are you're telling me? He's sitting over there. He's waiting, and you're telling me what? Why would you need to tell me that he's sitting and waiting to mechaven? You're telling me the following. You're saying, right? You're saying that kalim is dumya to adam, just like what adam you need kavana. So to kalim to be Torah you need kavana. Just like what to come mechaven lu adam with the gal. So the chitem, if you're going to say b'yoshu mitzapel mamrema, so it's pashat then, fellas. Bishleim, if you tell me it happened, it fell upon him, and he's tahar, there's a chiddush. If you're telling me he's waiting for the wave that has 40 saw to come upon him, what kind of chiddush is that? Bishleim, without kavana, that's a chiddush. But if you're telling me he's waiting for it, l'chayra, what's the chiddush? So I'll tell you what the chiddush is. Ma'udetema ligzor mishum chardelish shel geshamim. If you have a water descending, that's like a waterfall, fellas, and it's a shot of rain that has 40 saw comes down upon him, it's not. It's still tamei. It's not matara him. Inami ligzar Russian atu bekipin. In other words, there's two concerns that why a gal should not be good. One, a gal coming like this is similar to rain coming down like this, and this is not good. Secondly, a gal, this is good, but the airspace is not. If you throw a kli into the airspace of the keepin, it's called keepin, like a keeper, guys, like a keeper, like this, it's no good. That's not the mishnah in mikvois. So inami ligza Russian atu bekeepin in the middle of the throwing it into the airspace of the gal kamash balon that since the legas minon. So that's the chiddush over here. He's sitting and waiting, and we're not goyzer a gal atu chardlis or atu keepin. We're not goyzer both. That's the chiddush over here. That's the chiddush. But meanwhile, you don't have a raya that shalei b'kavana. If guys, once he's waiting for it to happen, you don't have a raya for chulin b'kavana. Correct? Again, what are we trying to do? We want a case of chulin shalei b'kavana that it's metaher. You don't have a raya once he's sitting and waiting, and the chiddush sitting and waiting is we're not going to those two possible cases. A side point. How do you know it can't be toivel in the airspace? That non matbilim b'Russian, ve matbilim b'kelim, shei matbilim ba'avir. You can't be toivel ba'avir. Ela chulin. So ela chulin leboy kavana mia minalon. Okay. So now geshmak. Getting back to our, back to the paper trail. Yes. How do you know chulin shaloi b'kavana? That non peris shenafnu letoich ames hamayim. You have peris. They fall into amas hamayim. Uposhit, and they just fell in. So that's shalei b'kavana. Uposhit mi sheyadav tmeyos, and a person whose hands tamei sticks his hands in v'natlam, and he takes it. Now he wanted to take the peris. Yadav tahayros, his hands are tahar. Uperes eina b'chiyutan, his hands are tahar, and his peris are not. They're not muchen b'kabel tuma. Again, you need that. He wants it to be there, and he doesn't want it to be there. And he's sticking his hands in to wash them off. Then his hands will be tahar. Right. Then his hands will be tahar, and upeiras b'chiyutan, and the peiras would be b'chiyutan. Now, either way, his hands are tahar. Even guys, he wasn't mechaven to put his hands in. He wanted to get the fruit out. Correct. So either way, his hands are tar. The shaila is b'chiyutan, nichle, not lichanei. But what do we need? We need that his hands are tar. Why his hands tar? I wasn't mechaven. So what do you see? Le'inyin chulin b'shalei b'kavana, it's tar. Esvei Rav Nachman, tava l'chulin. A person goes to the mikveh for chulin, for huchsuk l'chulin, and what? And he's niskaven for chulin. So this is This is the Gemara in Chagiga, guys. Different dargis of tuma. And ways to get tar, you need kavanas. So he's toivel for chulin. He eats chulin al kairos hakodesh, and his mind is chulin. Huchsik lechulin. He's miskaven for chulin and asl lemaisa. Huchsik in like huchsik loy. L'chayra, you have to be miskaven. So how do you see that without huchsik, without miskavana, it doesn't help? You are saying for chulin it does help. You see, it doesn't help. So that's the mahachi kamar. Afal pisha huchsik chulin, even though he's mischaven v'chulin, asal lemaisa. He'd be asal lemaisa. Esevei tava v'loy huchsik. If he's tava, he doesn't have. He's not muchsik for anything. Kilu loy tava. My love kilu loy tava klal. So you see that what? Since you didn't have kavana, it doesn't help for chulin. Says malay kilu loy tava lemaisa, but for chulin it would help. For chulin it would help. I will tava l'chulin. I will tava l'chulin. Who Sava Rava held the chuyu kamatchale that really you're giving these terutzim, you're just being doicha. But enochinami, the halacha is chulin shlebi kavana is you're still tamei, guys. In other words, you're asking kashas, you're being doicha the kashas, and Rava held say enochinami, but linyan chulin the kavana you need kavana. So Rava held to say who Sava the chuyu kamatchale nafik dak he went out v'ashkan he found the Tanya tavo v'loy hochsik. If you toivel, v'loy chuchsik, and you weren't mechavin, guys, and you weren't mechavin muta, l'chulin vas l'maisa. That's it. You have your own Gemara, guys, underline it. That's the statement. There it is. This is the Tanya, it's a brisa. Toval, you went to the mikvah, v'loy chuchsik, and you weren't mechavin, muta l'chulin. So what do we need? This is our aim, this is our job, to find out that chulin shaloi b'kavana works. Amalei Abayil Rabbi Yosef. Leimer Tavi Tiyufta de Rabbi Yochanan Meha. Let's say it's an upshlag on Rabbi Yochanan from this, right? Let's say it's an upshlag on Rabbi Yochanan on this, because Rabbi Yochanan said Chulin needs kavana. Rabbi Yochanan said Chulin needs kavana. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, who damak Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef? You're right. This brisa is not like me. This brisa, I said you don't need kavana. This brisa is not like me. But guess what? I have a Tana who holds school and does need kavana, and I hold like that Tana. Again, there's always that loophole. Every Amoira who wants to come out l'kuli alma will always use this as the least possible resort in learning, guys. This is a nakuda that I've stressed over the years. If you can fataych a brisa any which way, even if it's a dachuk, you'll fataych it that way. If you're stuck and clearly you're going connected a brisa, then you had better have another brisa, another Tana that supports you. So over here we have Rabbi Yochanan saying that chulin kavana, you need kavana. Here we have an often a brisa that says chulin does not need kavana. So what does Rabbi Yochanan tell you? He says, I have some and I go according to you. Who damak Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef? I hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef. The Tanya, Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef Omer. Now this is speaking about what? It's speaking about a nigay, the goyim in a beged. So you would go ahead, you'd wash the beged. 7 days later, you'd wash it again. The koives, matamad loy mashenis. Why do you have to say it a second time? Makish tichboises shniya. We make a hekesh between the second washing, the tachboises rishayna to the first washing. Ma tachboises rishayna ledas. It's with das. Af tachboises shniya ledas. Ilamayla halam bin das koyin af bin das koyin. Tamalayim avatir mikol makan. So what do you see? That you need das when you wash the beged. It's not enough. Shalai b'kavana. You have to have kavana. Maskal Rav Senior Rashi. Umiyah Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Does Rabbi Yochanan really say that you need kavana? I've run Rabbi Yochanan halacha kastam mishnah. The halacha is like a stam mishnah. Now you always have to wonder. Also, when you bring in a Gemara, that total digression, you're wondering why you're bringing it in. Inevitably, you're going to bring it on Mishnah as a kasha or a raya or something, right? So now we're going to bring it on Mishnah. Right? Now we're going to bring it on Mishnah. So again, Rabbi Yochanan says clearly you need kavana by chulin. It's not enough shlei b'kavana. Rabbi Yochanan, we know, holds the halacha is like a stam mishnah. If the halacha is like a stam mishnah, what does that mishnah say? Right? That naf l'sakin, if the sakin falls, v'shachta and shechts, afa pisha shachta kedarka pesula, v'avinamba taima de nafla, hohi pila hu kshera, v'afa gavloi mechavin. V'aminan my tanad loy boy kavana l'shchita, amarav Reb Nasanhi, b'shchita, okay, Reb Nasanhi. Guys, says Rabbi Yochanan, I hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef that you don't need chavana by chulin. You don't need chavana by chulin. You see that by tachboisis, by the washing of the mitzvah. 1 second. Rabbi Yochanan holds like a Stam Mishnah. What does our Mishnah say? If it falls in shecht, it's no good. But let's say he throws it down and it shechts, it is good. I didn't have kavana. And Allah is like a Stam Mishnah. How could Rabbi Yochanan? So now you have a problem in Rabbi Yochanan. On one hand, he's holding Rabbi Yochanan ben Yosef that you need kavana. On the other hand, he must hold like a Mishnah, you don't need kavana. How does Rabbi Yochanan reconcile the two? On one hand, he's holding back from the Rabbi Yochanan by the second washing by Mitzvah that you need kavana. And over here, yet in our Mishnah, it's only because it fell that it doesn't work. But if he threw it, it would work. So, and he holds the lachas like a Stam Mishnah. So you have a steer Rabbi Yochanan. So you can go ahead and reconcile this. And for the Gemara, very geschmack. Amar Rav Nassan, Rav Nassan he b'shchita. Amar Rav Nassan he b'shchita. V'afil Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef medegali Rachman misasik b'kochem pasol nechal dechulin loy be'inin kavana. We have a source that a person's misasik. If you shech kochem without kavana, let's say you go down, you take a knife and you want to cut a radish. And on the way down to get the radish, you shecht kachim, you misasek. That's puzzle. That's without kavana. Even though you wanted to go and cut the radish, that is not good. Why? Because it says l'daitchem. It says l'tzoimchem tizbachu l'daitchem zivchuhu l'daitchem. You need das by zvicha. So therefore, it's not shver. By chulin you takadu. By chulin, right? By chulin you don't need kavana, according to Rabbi Yonasan. But Rabbi Yonasan would be moida by shchita that it would be good. Why? Since you needed a pasuk to tell me misasek by kochim is no good, it must be misasek, which means shlei kavana by chulin is good. Since you needed a pasuk to tell me by kochim misasek is no good, it must be by chulin misasek is good. So since you have that pasuk, Rabbi Yonasan, who said is din by Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef, who said his din by Mitzvah, would agree by Shchitas Chulin, our Mishnah, that would be good. Okay, let's put it together, guys. Let's put it together. We've proven from a brisa that you do not need kavana by Chulin. You don't need kavana by Chulin, right? You don't need the gal falls on the water. You don't need kavana. It's good. Shchita, don't need kavana. You need koyach gavra, as Heshi said, but you don't need what? You don't need kavana. We have a brisa that says it openly. Rabbi Yochanan said you do need kavana. Question: how does Rabbi Yochanan deal with that? Rabbi Yochanan has a brisa, and for the Gemara, Rabbi Yonasan has a person he goes according to. It's Rabbi Yochanan goes according to Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef, who says you see you need kavana by the second washing of mitzvah. For the Gemara, the halacha is like a Stam Mishnah. What does Rabbi Yonasan do with that? Rabbi Yochanan, what does he do with that? The answer is Rabbi Yonasan, who says his din by Mitzvah, would agree with our Mishnah. By our Mishnah, he would agree that Shchita does not need Kavana. Why? Because we have a pasuk to tell me by Kachem you do need Kavana. Why would you need a pasuk to tell me by Kachem you need Kavana? Why? Because it must be by Chul and you don't. So Mela, it's not shver at all. Rabbi Yonasan is clear. Our Mishnah is speaking by Shchita. By Shchita, Rabbi Yonasan, who says you don't need Kavana by washing by Mitzvah, would hold you don't need Kavana by Shchita, and Rabbi Yonasan goes in that Shchita. So everything's checked off. Let's just finish the Gemara. I feel Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef Midagali would agree that you don't need Kavana by Chulin Midagali Rachman Mesasik Bekochem Pasol Nachal the Chulin loy boy Kavana. V'Rabbanon. Now, this is going back, as I told you, guys, go back to Yom Aleph. See the Taisus Oven Karis, Amarova, Rav Nassan, the Tanya, Oishia Ziri, Dimin Chavre, Zorik Sakin, Linoitza Bekoisel, you're throwing a knife against the wall, the Holcha Vishach, the Kidarka, Rav Nassan Machshiv, Chachamim Poislim. So why Chachamim are saying it's by Chulin, yet the Chachamim is saying it's puzzle. If you showed me by Kotchim, Mesasek's no good, it must be by Chulin, it is good. What's the reason the Chacham that passed over here? That's the Chacham that passed back by us. Right? Even though you don't need kavana for shchita, you do need kavana for the act of chaticha. Okay, guys, let's break it down let's break this down. I'm going ahead and I'm throwing a knife. The knife is gonna, if it cuts an animal's throat, it accomplishes two things. It cuts the throat, and it's a kosher shchita. Says the Rabbanon, als the shchita you do not need kavana. That I know from kachim. By kachim you do need, but for the act of cutting, I do need kavana. In other words, the Hayim Adrega that I cut two simonim, roiv of two simonim, without chalada, without drasa, that I don't need a kavana for. But the act to actually know that I'm doing something, cutting, that you do need kavana for. And therefore they say it's possible. Says the Gemara, back inside. Rabbanan, nihid lo bin kavana lezvicha for the act of shchita, lechaticha for the act of cutting, being that I do need. Amarava, Baha Zachneu Reb Nassan Rabbanan. Right here, Reb Nassan was zeicha to outwit the Chachamim. Mikasiv v'chatachta. Does it say v'chatachta? V'zavachta kasiv. It says v'zavachta. I being kavanah l'chaticha, afilu l'svicha nami liboy. Iloi being kavanah l'svicha, l'chaticha nami liboy. You go ahead and you can't cut hairs, guys. You can't. If you don't need kavana for shchita, you don't need kavana for chaticha. And if you do need kavana chaticha, you do need kavana for shchita. You can't go ahead and split the two. Memela, the chacham who say apostle are incorrect. Reb Nassan's correct. The halacha is like Reb Nassan. That's why they pass on Reb Nassan. For shchita, you don't need kavana. You do need koyach gavra, but you don't need kavana. And tomorrow, best we'll figure out how that the oinus by what by mikvah. How the oinus was by mikvah. We'll see B'ez Hashem tomorrow. Everyone should have a great day.